Alright, howdy folks, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at 6 Days in Fallujah with some developer gameplay in the background. We'll be going over what the game is about and what you can expect in the lead up to the early access release later this month. I hope to have some of my own live commentary 4-player co-op gameplay up later this week, but I first wanted to dive into what 6 Days is all about. As the name implies, the game is centered around the brutal urban battle of Fallujah, more specifically the opening stages of the second battle in November of 2004. You and up to 3 other players are tasked with clearing dug-in and entrenched insurgents in an ever-changing urban environment. If you want to check out the game for yourself, I'll have a link to the store page down in the description. Initially, the game will release in early access on June 22nd, giving players access to the 4-player tactical co-op missions part of the game. Though no visual roadmap is shared, the developers do state they want to add different maps, times of day, and weather types to the game later on in development. Besides these new environmental features, they also mention they are looking to add different types of missions, new equipment, as well as real-world special operations forces to the game later on. Seeing as not only American but also Iraqi and British forces were engaged in Fallujah, it's not unlikely we'll see one, if not both, of these countries represented in 6 Days somewhere down the line. At early access release, there will not be friendly bots to fill up empty spaces in your fire team, though later on in development, AI teammates as well as civilians are planned to help you enjoy the game even as a solo player. These civilians will definitely add a lot more tension, as you can no longer be assured that everyone outside of your team is a target to freely engage. As someone who has spent quite a bit of time playing Ready or Not, this game seems a bit similar, though with a lot less strict rule set of engagement. At least until they add civilians, that is. Now, look forward to seeing how the developers will add civilians and have different ways for players to interact with them. Now, the main selling point of 6 Days seems to be the procedurally generated levels. There's this very cool GIF on the store page that shows a few different environments and really gives you a basic idea of what to expect. This feature is huge, especially coming from Ready or Not, which does lack some replayability due to only having a few maps. With more maps, different environments, as well as times of day, weather, and different nations or units to play as in the future, there's going to be a ton of replayability in 6 Days. Besides a different battleground each time, enemies will not only be in different starting positions, they'll also have tons of freedom to engage or flank you. They'll try to set up ambushes as well as traps to try and take you down. Luckily, you aren't forced to engage any situation in a specific way. You have complete freedom on how to dislodge enemy combatants from Fallujah. Though a tip I found in one of their developer briefings from a veteran who's helping make the game, if you engage enemies from top to bottom, they do have a chance to retreat instead of being forced to fight to the death. Whether enemy insurgents can surrender in-game at the moment isn't known yet, though this might be something that will be added later on when civilians are added with similar interactions, such as tying up captives. Talking about veterans, the developers claim that dozens of Iraqi soldiers and civilians and over 100 Western soldiers and Marines are helping shape the game. Though the developers haven't said anything about this yet, which is probably due to it being relatively early on in the game's lifecycle, is whether the game will be mod friendly or not. Personally, I can see a modding community for this game adding a ton of value, something that really helped out Ready or Not as well. Whether it will ever get PvP multiplayer isn't known right now. I can definitely see a sort of asymmetric PvE VP game out though, where it's 4 players playing as the coalition troops and 1 player is on the insurgent team. The insurgent team player would be able to, say, command AI to do certain things, or take over or control insurgents here and there to add a human-level intelligence threat to the enemies in 6 Days. Granted, even if it's something the developers want to add, I'd love to see them work on the AI teammates as well as civilians, and honestly even more factions before they start adding any sort of PvP multiplayer. Now, I am really excited to showcase some of the co-op gameplay of 6 Days in the near future, and I cannot wait to see what you guys think of that. With that being said, are you excited for 6 Days? Let me know down below, and I hope to catch you in the next one.